but have cardiovascular health risk, suicide even. Because we were created for community. We are created for community. A sense of belonging. That's social connection. Social connection then is the number and quality of relationships or people that we have in our circle. You're going through a trouble, somebody says, you have a friend? Who do you talk to? So it's the amount of people, but also the quality. Because you know some relationship could be toxic. You see them and you run in the opposite, alone. Hope it's not a circle. So when we have real social connection, there are two groups of people we are talking about. The primary group and the secondary group. The primary group would be like your family. The secondary group would be them people them outside. But interestingly enough, before you even marry someone, generally they are taken from the secondary group. And then you work your way to social connection. So, look at some important things about social connection. Number one, what it is? It what? It enhances your memory. 2, 3, 4, 5. Could you imagine that? When you have a good relationship, it will extend your life. When you have a bad one, it can shorten it. Look at some values again. When you have good social relationship, what? Again, you have access to resource and support. You feel connected. You feel valued. You experience meaning. Let me tell you a little secret that everybody knows. When God created Adam, he says, it is not good for man to live alone. So whenever you hear somebody say, I don't want nobody around me, somebody hurt them. Look, in one of the churches where I pastored, we had a young boy, Curtis. If you see him at the altar, Jesus, I don't want no woman. Jesus, I don't want no woman. Jesus, you're so sweet. Look, I feel to clout him in the head. You know, a few years later, he was married. Jesus, not sweet again. We are created to connect with people. That's social relationship. So, we have a challenge. Our world has changed and we have now baptized into a virtual world where it's no longer flesh and blood. And we have to find ways to connect with people who we can't see. Look, I had a lady who came for counseling. She says, Pastor, I want to get married. I said, no problem, no problem. Where's your fiancé? Well, I never really met him in person. I said, never met. We met online and we fell in love. I said, okay. And I have a series of questions I asked the premaritals. One of them is, are you on any prescribed medication? You need to ask that these days. And here's her answer. Kinda. Long and short, she was an outpatient from St. Anne's. I said, did you tell your intended? Not really. So we're doing relationship online with people we don't know, we don't have a context, we don't see them, we don't touch them. That is the navigation you're talking about. So, Curtis, these are your words that you sent me. The concern, the real concern is, with all the platform and devices we have to keep in touch, we are less connected than we have been before. It's like we have more Bibles but less Bible reading. That is a concern. So let me paint the canvas. A picture paints 1,000 words. And I'm going to give you a picture of what it looks like now in terms of this virtual world. And I want you to whisper to your person next to you what you think about that picture. You just half a minute, eh? Let's go. Come, say something to your partner. Somebody say, ouch. What's happening there? What's happening there? What do you think? That's normal. I like this one. That's the world in which we live. Picture paints 1,000 words. Picture paints. Oh, read this one. So, how many of you guys feel that this is quite normal? Put your hands up. So, we are created social beings, and technology is substituting person to person contact, and that's normal. It ain't right, but it's normal. Ay, ay, ay. So here are some of the contradiction of this normalcy. We are alone, but we are together. We're in isolation, but we have a loose connection. We have privacy, but we look like we're displaying a public kind of something. We are told to mute or you'll be muted. actually being blocked from coming into a room. That is normal. So at the end of the day, you could keep your camera off or you could hide. You see this church online, and you're calling, brother, think, pray. Brother, eat outside. That is normal. It's normal for you to invite me into your home and your camera all over into the roof and you're walking. And some of you, if you don't know how you dress properly, there's all kind of drama happening. That is normal. The fact that we are virtual, it's basically compromising even some of our social skills. And guess what? We have now have a decreased vulnerability, a sense of being vulnerable. I don't have to bring you into any deep spaces. And we become religious nomads. Religious nomads are people who are just flirting. I heard one brother said, man, I went to about 5 services this morning. So you have service but no community. And what are you giving? Actually 0. Because when I'm tired of you, I switch like a cafeteria. How do I measure your growth? How do I measure authenticity? And that's normal. We're talking about connection in a modern world. So here's the cry. Let's read the cry from Gay 1. Everybody, let's read. Who disagree? Put your hand. That's a deep cry because God created us for social connection. But there's a crisis. Huck says, but there was human intimacy and connection, something that is hard to find in the what? In the modern world. Here's the cause, I think. I call it the eschatological. Eschatology have to do with the last days. Jesus says, in the last days, what will happen to people's love? The love of many will wax cold. But then there is another cause, which is really the socio-technological cause. And that is, I captured the words of Dr. Brown. Here's what he says. Technological advances were supposed to free us up to creative thinking. But guess what? It has actually eroded it. We have less time to reflect. We may also have interrupt and diminish learning and productivity because there's such a information overload. You don't even have time to process what you're seeing. In other words, you have too much information. So let's talk about the conversation then. 4 important questions that we must ask ourselves. Question number 1. Does technology bring us together or further apart? What do you think? Let me see those who say together. Put your hands up. Technology brought us together. Further apart. And that is normal, right? Now, Julie Morgenstern makes a very important observation through us. She says a former colleague, Tatiana McParland, conducted a research. And here's what the research. Does technology bring us closer together? Here's what she discovered. Our devices bring us closer to people who are geographically far away, but separate us from the people who are close. Long time. of thing. And you're connected with people far away at the expense of. Question number 2. But look at this particular observation. It was funny. Modern technology could forge a connection between two people on opposite end of the earth, but it could just as easily drive a wedge between two people standing side by side in the same room. So I like how Ali put it. He says, there's a lot of argument that technology is replacing manpower, blah, 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 and we are locked in a capsule. Which really means we are connected, but we're really not connected. So we're connected to those who are far, but we're not connected to those who are near. So then, the online social world will never be able to replace real world. Doesn't matter. Next question. Is technology bridging or dividing the society? It sounds like the same kind of a question, but Classic Folios gives us some interesting responses. It says a double-edged sword. Remember, we are saying, look, it could be bringing people who are far connected by dividing those who are near. So it cut it in both directions. And so they subdivided this question to drill it down a little bit. Look at this. Is subject to change. We have opportunity to connect, but it's fracturing relationships. So I could feel really, really close to a partner I see for years at the expense of chatting with my wife. Yeah, I no time now. I talking with George, just now. I give you a minute. So, how is technology bringing us together? Because it's cutting on both sides, right? Number 1, you have unprecedented connectivity. Don't try to read everything. Never before are we able to connect with so many people globally simultaneously. And it's a good experience, ain't it? 2, loved ones that are far away, more specifically, we can connect with them. Granny on her phone, hi child, yes, long time no see, grandpa. It's doing that. Here's another important thing I would bring us together. There is a rise of countless virtual communities. So you have animal rights over so. You have the plant family across so. You have people who are into photography across so. You have the lame and the sick across so. All kind of a virtual communities and connectivity that you're having all over the place. And basically, what it does is foster relationship that might not have been fostered before. Value. You talk about information the technology has brought. At your fingertips. Information and more information and more information. Value. We have an opportunity to actually see people from different cultures that we've never seen before. So we could connect with them and say, oh, I didn't know that. I mean, there's some places that I have researched online and say, wow, some cultures didn't know before. So there is value. But how is it driving us apart? Too much screen time eroding your social skills. It is so uncomfortable to have a conversation. It's easier, and that's why a lot of young people, they're having some problems with their neck. Lend me your phone. Because guess what? There is coming a generation, next 10, 15 years, that's how they're going to be walking. Because the curvature of their neck have been compromised. Because there's no activity except down. Who phone about here, boy? Pass it for me, Dave. So it deepens loneliness. So we can be in the same room, but I cannot talk with you because I don't have the social skills. And some people are hiding behind that. Here's how it's damaging us again. It can distract you from real living, from living in the present. We live in our heads now. We're living in spaces. I saw a cartoon drawing of this family. The internet went down. And the children came from upstairs. They said, "Who are you people?" And as the parents they're talking to. Too much reading. Now, this is an important one. How it's affecting us. This thing called filter bubbles. Let me see if you could experience this. Don't try to read everything. You Google something online. Let's say you want to look for a wedding dress. And all of a sudden, everybody's sending you a wedding dress. You passed by the Marriott. You didn't go. By the time you reach home, how was your visit to the Marriott? But technically, what filter bubbles are, it's the information that the marketing world keeps sending you so you don't have an opportunity to appreciate alternative positions or views. So it's keep feeding you one thing. It filters out everybody else's option. That is damaging us. Here's another damage. Privacy issue. They're tracking you everywhere for anything. You want to know if Uncle Sam watching you, you know. I don't know about you, but sometimes that phone thing and computer, give me these books. You don't know who is watching. And you know what annoys me, Dana? They always want you to update something. What's all your problem? And as you update, something seems to be something in some way, something. So your privacy is compromised. So we get down to the communities now. So people, in terms of social connection, we're living in two communities. We're living in a virtual community, and as a church, we live in an incarnational community. Here's what the virtual community looks like. Technology and the internet have also given us rise to countless virtual communities. These communities can benefit. They can give a real sense of belonging. By connecting like-minded people, they foster relationships. I was doing some work with how a gay identity is formed. And one researcher says, what happens is that you first of all have an experience, whatever that experience is. But then you try to get somebody to explain the experience, which is your script. Watch it now. Young people, listen up. I have an experience and I need somebody to explain it. Long time we had our friends here, there, and everywhere. But today, boom, internet and all of the technology just open up and everybody have a script to explain what happened to me. So we pastors, long time when people come to church, they listen to us. That's a thing of a past. Everybody on their phone, and they're not like the BUN Christian trying to check whether what you say is true, you know. Them checking their email. Because pastor on my Bible. Because they could switch back their screen quick to Bible. So we are not the repository, you church people, of all answers. There's somebody chatting out there. So I get the experience, I get a script, but the next thing I look for is people who have the same experience. That's community. And then they say, I know exactly what you're going through. I experienced the same thing too. And we create a community hiding each other's stuff, hiding each other's secret, confirming and relating to each other, and it strengthens it. And here is the challenge we face. I could be walking in physical community, but living in virtual community. So in my mind, I'm somewhere else, you know. Now I can give you all of the physical indication that I'm present. Yeah. But my mind is in Australia, is in Africa, is in India, connecting with my community. And here's the interesting thing. We old people who like to sleep late or early, the virtual community is beaming. 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning and church at 9. So let me talk now of the incarnational community. Now, this is a concept that Catholics like to use a lot. But it's not a Catholic issue. Incarnational community, understand it then, is drawn from John chapter 1 and verse 14. And the word became flesh and dwelt among us. So, the method of Jesus and the apostles is to walk along with people, to touch them, to feel them. And that was one of the challenges of COVID in connection. How do you remain incarnational when we are virtual? Do you know what is to preach to a whole empty church? Worship a whole church. And you have to now presume people out there. And preach like if they're getting an amen. And especially we Pentecostal people who like incarnational contact. Flesh. Give me a high five. I feel it. Feel what? Praise God, all you are out there in radio land. Who out there in radio land? Who in television land? Who in internet land? So the charismatic Pentecostal and the incarnational community churches went through a crisis in connection. How do you do hospital visitation? Could you substitute, sisters, could you substitute holding somebody's hand? How do you substitute a hug? I need a hug. But the virtual, how do I? And think of the amount of families. I want my wife to scratch my little bald head, and I am in foreign. And she says, raise your virtual hand and scratch my head. So then, when you begin to understand incarnational ministry now, it's immersion in cultures. It is seeking to close the distance. That's incarnational. And when you do so, you think of Jesus. The word what became? The word did what became? And the next thing the flesh did was live among us. No social distancing. No disconnect. He walks, he talked, he felt, he experienced deep social connection. So, because the Catholics have taken this, have gone in one direction, there's need to just identify some misgivings. One, we do not become Jesus. That's not possible. Two, we do not become so incarnational that we don't confront sin. You want to be so close. We must never allow the gospel message to be distorted. And four, when we engage in culture, it's not our primary mission to be liked by the culture. We are to be transforming culture. And so when I cross-examine then the biblical text, I have to appreciate that. But mind you, if you could bear this, this is a Catholic theologian, and he spoke a truth. Daniel Ang. Here's what he says. One of the biggest threats to the church, our Christian life, our spiritual formation, that's during the pandemic period, is a Christianity without a stable, incarnational community. And what we have in this place, a kind of fluid, artificial, unseen virtual community on social platform. We love you in the name of the Lord. We love you. Do you know up to today, there are a lot of families and churches have not yet gone back to incarnational presence? Because the virtual connection is safer. It doesn't demand much of me. When I'm tired, I switch off my camera. Remember, I have to cook. And I can't do it when I'm in church. I can walk around midnighty in my pajamas. Hope the camera don't flip. So what the virtual community have done, it has taken away incarnational presence. Because incarnational presence requires too much. It's easier to see somebody in the hospital and say, "Go on your phone. I'm going to pray for you." I don't have to go nowhere. I watch a husband and wife. I was sitting now in a certain place. I don't want to advertise them. And I see a husband and wife communicated to each other. And they ride it, you know. And I know they're talking to one another. You can see they laugh and this one laughs. And you see a lively thing going on. Now, I'm not knocking that per se. I don't know what was the content and what was the context. But what I'm saying is that we have come comfortable not to be incarnational anymore. So then, Ang says, as people of the incarnation and cross, we recognize that there's an overwhelming promise in the technology, but there's also a shadow side where we could lose our sense of self. So I went back to the biblical text. Could you read it again for me, please, people? What it says. If we're going to have genuine connection in the midst of a virtual world, keep these four things in mind, following the model of Jesus. One, the Logos was a philosophical, abstract concept. In the beginning was the Logos. But God decided that the Logos must now become embodied in flesh. So there are still some brothers and sisters and husbands and wives, they're very philosophical and abstract. They're there, but, So says, "Don, how are you feeling?" Well, when one experiences a feeling, we keep hiding from the flesh. So we hide behind ideas and concepts and, So I ask you, "Curtis, how do you feel?" Well, it depends on what you mean by feelings. That's annoying, eh? We have to come from this abstract, hidden space to get back to incarnational. Here's the second truth. We must embody humanness and be with and live with. Oh my gosh. That is the hard part. You see, I love mankind. It's people I can't stand. So what some of us have done, we have used church and family just as a visiting place, then boss it. So I'm coming in late because I don't want nobody ask me nothing, and I'm going to leave just before service over. Pew! I don't want to live with. I don't want to be with. It's like some of the old-time preachers. They turn up, the anointing, and then they bust it. I don't want you to see my armor and the kinks in my armor. Hey, here's a big secret about incarnational connection. Our family knows us best. So all the kind of spirituality we behaving with, we have to learn somewhere. Can I be graphic and ugly? I tease people who are courting early. They're going to get married. And they have this idea that the husband wouldn't poops. Like, I'm married and the worship leader. You go ahead. When he take off his shoes and that incarnational foot and reality, you see, hey, that abstract thing must now. So connection is hard work. When you become human again, then you're ready to connect. Here's the third thing. Because of the transforming power of God, my incarnational presence must bring God's glory to the social relationship. It's not just about me. You must behold the glory of God. And number 4, if you're going to really connect, you have to bring grace to the social situation, but also truth. Because there are some things about me, I need some truth telling. But we don't like to hear the truth. But I need grace. You see, there are some people, they have all truth, but no grace. And there are some who have all grace, but no truth. You cannot have deep social connection with only grace alone. It's all right. It's all right. I forgive you. I don't go choke out your eye. But you also have truth, because Ephesians says, speak the truth one to another in love to grow. Social connection is about growth. So we have a little conundrum. How am I doing for time? You doing all right? Right. Here's the conundrum. Living in the tension of being versus doing. A conundrum is a kind of a trap, a kind of a puzzle, a kind of a... Now, we are called human doings. Let's go again. We are called human. No, we are called human doings. One more time. We are called human. No, you are human doing. You see, the problem, precious people, is that we believe we are what we do. And when we stop doing, we cease to be. That is why some men, brothers, when you retire, you go into depression, because what you do defines your identity. I exist before I became a preacher. So if I stop preaching, my identity and worth of being is not tied to my preaching. Think of the athlete. They summarize who they are with their legs. They're doing. accident and they can't function anymore, oh boy, who am I? So let me run through this quickly, this conundrum. Doing this being. Pastor says, when we go through life, we go through life in the doing or being mode. Which one are you? Now, both being and doing are necessary. Both being and doing are necessary virtues. So let's talk about what the Western society, where we live. Western society value doing because you could measure it. You could put a monetary value to it. In other words, what you doing, man? What you doing with your life? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? I have something for you to do. Listen, we have something for you to do. We have something to do. I need to do. So wifey says to me, Don, could you stay with me today? What you want me to do? Can we go on the mall for a little walk? To do what? Because it have to make sense. Look, look, here's my social scientist humor. Sometimes I go on the mall and I look at, what you call the place? It's Pennywise, one in the place. Wonderful World, or someone in them place. The amount of men will be standing up outside waiting. And I tell them a little kicks. Because me going in there. You're touching this, you're buying it. Buy it or don't buy it. What you think? How this look? Now all these are being, ways of being. But I am action. I want to do. And if I don't do, you're wasting my time. So it's hard to measure being. But hey, let me let the cat out of the bag. Social connection, 90% is being. We want to do social. So 90% of social connection is being. Sometimes you're belching out your heart, you're going through something. You don't want solution. You just want somebody to hold your hand. And you say, I understand what you're going through. But girl, if it was me, let me tell you what I would have do. So in the doing mode, we are living in our heads. We are goal-oriented in the doing. Tas, ting, 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 ting. In the doing mode, you have to keep this in mind. Our focus is whether we're going to make a meal, we're going to finish something, and right now, a lot of us, we are in doing mode. Because you're thinking of, when by time is that going to be finished? The amount of things I have to do tonight, and tomorrow I have to do this, and I have a checklist of that. So we want outcomes. The job of the mind in the doing mode is to get things done. Build a house, make a meal, travel to the moon, whatever it is. Now, these authors give a nice example of you're going on a trip in doing mode. Right? Doing mode might be that if you and a friend or spouse or child you're taking, some wee time, doing mode would be obsessed with getting to the destination and missing the scenery. Oh God, when we will get there, the traffic, oh God. And when you're at that door, them anxious. You might think I have to do this traffic. But honey, look at this sunset. What sunset? What sunset? You're not hearing me. So something to get from point A to B. That is the important thing. You have gas? This is the doing of the Western culture. You're driven. You're workaholics. You're competitive. You're stressed out. You're task-oriented. You're materialistic. You're mammon-driven. When you are in doing mode, social connection 90% is in being mode. So when you are in doing mode, this generally what happens to you. So look at this. In doing mode, the quality of relationship suffers. No deep relational connection. Health and stress issues develop. Spiritual development is sabotaged. Living an unexamined life. No self-care or me time. No space for deep listening. Humanistic worship of yourself through accompaniment because you're now more urgent, more. So when your family now want to connect with you and you're in doing mode, they are an obstacle to goals. Even on vacation. Everybody all right home? All you eat? I didn't know you're laughing guilty so. Oh, relax now. They're all right. Everything goes. And when you come and say, oh God, I come on vacation. I'm tired. I'm ready. And we wonder why. So, let's talk about the being mode a bit. Because that's where relationship and social connection thrive. Being mode is when you're living in the moment, experiencing things directly. You disengage your mind, and your mind is going nowhere. Oh God, are you crazy? You want the world to fall apart? Remember, at last, I'm holding up the world. Haven't you noticed when you sick, the world still goes on? Do you think church or your department will stop because you're not there? Huh? You think the home will fall up because you're not there to cook, wash, iron? Trust me. They will reinvent themselves and you will be substituted. You don't hear me, you know? Haven't you noticed? When we get sick to death, we start to negotiate with God about relationship issues. God, if you only bring me out of this, I go. And I go. I want to spend more time with my children. Oh God, give me a next chance, I go put on a nice dress for my husband. Oh God. When you're in doing mode, keep this in mind. The doing mode focuses on the present, interact with your sensory experiences. Really, you live in the present. Now, hear me now. When you go to the country, anybody like country? Right. Anybody like gardening? Right. When you get into your garden, isn't it the most peaceful place? Talking to your plants, and the plants talking back to you? There's something wrong there if the plants are talking. When you want to be at peace, we go on long drives. We go by the beach, forest area. We go back to nature. And you're feeling the breeze blowing on your face. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You ever been by the seaside? My wife loved the seaside. I don't like the sea. I will go and watch her. You too? I ain't want no company, brethren. So the job of the mind in the being mode is allowing us to experience whatever, the here and now. Because here's what happened. So my wife and I, we're on a date. When I'm in being mode, guess what I'm focusing on? What she's saying, what she's thinking and feeling. How you score me?
I'll give you a 9.5.
She give me a 9.5. Thank you. You only say that for the church people. Right? You understand what I'm saying? But when I'm in doing mode, she's there, or I'm there, and you see, I'm thinking stuff. I'm not in the moment. So how could I have connection? Now let's go back to our road trip. For the person in being mode. Being mode is not concerned with the ultimate goal, alone. It's about the process, the scenery, the moment. When last did I stop and watch a sunset? It has sunset in Trinidad? Yesterday I was driving through Pretty Valley where we live, and the rain was falling. And I was saying, God, these mountains look so beautiful. I feel like a poet to stop and write how the rain drizzling down on the mountain. And when you carry other people into those social spaces, you begin to connect. So two people could be in a traffic jam, one cussing and one whistling. Same traffic jam. So when we're in being mode, we are in the present, all right? So look at the being mode summary. Not much physical work and tasks. The garden is unkept when you have too much being. You can become lazy if you have too much being. The deep intuitive connection, yes, but no grace and truth. So I have to come out of the being. It's a balance we need. You follow me? Let me jump. So when you navigate the modes of being and doing, there's nothing wrong with doing mode. There's nothing wrong with doing mode. But guess what? When you are trying to use doing modes to solve being mode issues, your relationship would be compromised. So somebody wants to talk and all they want you to do is what? And you're giving them solutions. One time I was going through a little space, boy, and I found a brethren. I said, boy, I need to talk, boy, I need to let it out. And I thought he was a safe person to talk to. Evidently, when I start belching out my story, he real uncomfortable. See me twitching and he turned like, oh God, when this go finish? Like it was a torture to hear me talk. Because men don't reach those levels of connection. There's an author called Kent Hughes. He says men don't like to be too intimate and vulnerable. We have to appear, hey, I good, I strong, I all right. So when I'm finished, I'm waiting for my brother to kind of empath, you know? Yeah, what he tell me, you would not believe. He watched my eyeball time say, boy, you know how much runs Lara make, boy? You see how much runs Lara make? And I was like, Hamilton, I'm not going there with you. So doing mode is not an enemy, but you need to know when to switch from doing to being, right? So I'm jumping up all of that kind of stuff there. The value of doing and being, right? Good. Let me get to a concept called mindfulness, which ties to being. I wouldn't live too long there. Mindfulness is being present in the moment to connect with things and situations around you. And that is part of a powerful element of social connection. You ever heard the term absent-minded? That means you're not there at all. The boy so absent-minded. When there's mindfulness, you're living in the present. You're paying attention. You are not distracted with this and that and so on. So I will jump over some of the definitions and give you some pictures of mindfulness. Tell me, which one are you? Are you mindful or you're mindful? Are you want to socially connect? You have to be mindful, not you're mindful. Are you mindful or you're mindful? So if you want to go out with your family and really connect, your mind can't be full. You have to be mindful. When you're mindful, you're attentive. When you're mindful, you're watching the shades and the nuances and the emotions and the feelings. When you're mindful, you're sensitive to what's happening around you. Remember the deep cry. Everybody wants to feel accepted, needed. But I find during courtship, people are very mindful. Everything, you're all right? Okay? Your foot hurting you? Your neck? Your big toe? Oh, you want ice cream? Juice? Thing? God help you when you get married. So you can't do it for yourself or what? I'm busy. And people begin to feel rejected. They begin to feel that I'm not important anymore. I don't feel valued. And honey, we are drifting apart. And it didn't happen in an accident, It's just slowly eroding. Is you mindful? Or are you mindful? Poor fella. Somebody say you have a belly full. How could you be mindful when she's pregnant? Brother, you know it is to be with a woman and she's pregnant and you have to be mindful. My foot, my head, my hand. I feel to eat this. No, I don't feel to eat that. And then say, listen. I ain't wired for that. It's too much. It's too much, man. And then you come from work. So, ladies, I don't want to be stereotypical. You also experience that challenge of system overload. Mindful. Listen. I was doing a study, and they were comparing Pentecostals versus Jehovah's Witnesses in terms of their mental health. And the article said that the Pentecostal charismatic people, they are showing a higher level of mental wellness than the JWs. Hold your seat. One of the reasons they said, not no spirit, one of the reasons they said the Pentecostal people are very expressive. So when you see somebody at the altar, Jesus! It's not Jesus, it's man worries. So we have a safe place to ball. We have a safe, oh God, leave she. Holy Ghost. You think all that time is Holy Ghost? That wicked husband of yours, where else you gone ball? In the neighborhood? Church is the right place. Jesus! Oh God, the Lord moving on she boy. And then she come out, she says, church was a real good boy. You free your mind. So I'm trying to bring it home quickly. Challenges. I'm going to give you 3 cases of connection that didn't work well. Job's friends, they were too judgmental. There are people who need social connection and things are happening to them. We cannot be too judgmental. You see, look at this, look at this. In the being mode, Job's friend did well because they sat down with him for 7 days and said nothing. So sometimes when you go visiting the sick people, zip your lip. Don't try to theologize their pain. That's not connecting. I don't need a Bible verse at that time. I just want you to be there. Sometimes we see somebody in church for a while, you don't see them. The first thing, not forsaking the assembling of yourself together. Oh God, you know why I wasn't there? So when they saw Job's grief, they just sat down with 7 days and just, You know, as soon as them fellas open their mouth. So sometimes the best social connection is silence. You don't know nothing? Zip it. Silent moments, the most powerful moments for some of us as therapists. You just sit and you listen. It's uncomfortable. It's like hours, but it's just, some people need quiet. You know what? I want you to read this quote to me from Laura Beth. She said, just because a group of people has a bunch of boards, hammers, and nails does not mean that they are building a house or even anything recognizable. Sometimes leaders think that they are doing their job just because there's a lot of hammering going on. As a society, we like the sound of hammering, but we are uncomfortable with the sound of thinking, which is silence. And sometimes we are worse at hospital visitation. A big sign on the ward, be quiet. In the name of Jesus. And pull out all the man drips. These guys switched to doing mode. And at the end of the day, look what happened. Eliphaz, he gave 3 speeches and he says, Job, you're only paying for your sins. Bildad gave 3 speeches and he says, God is just giving you a portion. Zophar says, really, it's a fraction and your children were sinning. And at the end of the day, Job says, all you are miserable comforters. You cannot socially connect in some situations if it's in requiring being and not doing. I had a friend who lost a relative. And when I called them, here's what you said. All we needed was somebody to come and cook for us. Everybody assumed that we were eating. They needed doing. You see? So to socially connect, it's good to ask people, how can I help? What do you want me to do? Don't presume. I'll jump over some of this stuff here to save time. Oops, let me get to too distracted and anxious. The case of Martha. You know the case of Martha and Mary? Which one is the doing? Which one was the being? They sat at the feet. And all Mary, she was just being by listening. But listen to the doer. Jesus! Tell her to get up off she butt. Have me doing all the work. And Jesus says, cool it. Chill yourself. Calm down. She has chosen a path that would not be taken away from her. It's not wasting time, people, to stop and do devotions. You know we're too busy for devotions now, eh? Here's what happens. We're trying to connect. And we sit down with our Bible, we sit down at the feet of Jesus, as it were, but the amount of things going through our minds. As a preacher, I had to wrap that up because how much time I read one verse over and over. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You're so tired. You don't know how to. No, this is a true story. We had a brother from a Pentecostal church. He went to a prayer meeting. In the east, the church will remain nameless. You know, he mashed up the prayer meeting. In the midst of people calling to God, now, praise the bread, praise the vicks, praise the bread, praise the bread, praise the bread and the vicks. He drop asleep in church, you know. And his wife said to him, when you're coming home from prayer meeting, buy a bread and a vicks for us, please. And immediately, praise the bread, praise the vicks, praise the vicks, praise the vicks and the bread. If we don't know how to just, we are distracted, we are cumbered, we even bind God. God, I bind you in the prayer. Being in the being mode, Mary quick. She need to slow down. Let me jump to the other one. I'll jump over some of those things. I'm saving you some time, right? I jump. All this is about Mary and, right. Too tired and impulsive. The case of Peter, James, and John. Now, these guys were fishermen. Think about Fisherman's Day. Here's what Jesus told these doers. He says, I'm extremely sorrowful. Go over there and just wait for me. No, you can't tell three big men just to sit down and wait. Wherever you get that in men ministry. Where's men ministry there? Men like to be active and moving. How in the world you going to say, just sit down there and wait? Well, when Jesus came back, them fellas sleeping. 9 in 10 times, when men sit down too long and they're not active. Talk to me, somebody. Come on now, talk to me. 9 in 10 times, when men just sit down, guess what? So you hear the thing now, I'm coming home, I'm coming home. To listen to my wife. When she say, sit down there, I need to talk to you. You see what's going on? You listening? Yeah, I'm listening. I'll listen. We gone. The only time we awake is when it's sex. But other than that, I gone. You can't get me to sit down and live for how long? But we want to be socially connected. Now, there was a study that was debunked, and I'm sorry they debunked it because I thought I didn't like it. I'll still tell you where it is, right? And I could pull it back because they debunked it. Here's this research. They said they wanted to find out how many words a woman uses per day compared to how many words a man uses per day. And I call it a random figure. They say women use 10,000 words per day. And men use 5,000 words per day. Look drama. By the time he reach home, he max up. But she only used half. Because she's saving up the next half. See why I didn't like the research? home, he just about 100 words left. And she have a little, 5,000-10,000 still. And you make a mistake in your doing self to ask a being question. Honey, how was your day? You better sit down and don't fall asleep. And we find disconnected. But let me tell you a little secret. You see the sparks of courtship where I have only being time? The outside man and woman offers that. How your husband treating you, girl? I understand what you're going through. I understand. Them churchmen too busy, boy. They're too busy. Everything is church, 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 church. Or that outside woman come and she starts stroking your man. With your wife. And then she in church again. And you're lonely because you need connection. You need to connect on a deep level. I know exactly what you're going through. My wife used to do the same thing. I see it as a therapist. I see it. People sit down there, we call it transference. When they say, I wish my husband was like you, just listening to me empathically. Now, Lady Donna is benefiting from a whole heap of mistakes. I make you no goodness. My first wife, she was witty. And I'm going. No connection. No time to talk. No time to connect. I normally don't have the secretary fill out the appointments. And one day I saw her name as one of the persons to see during the day. So I said, what about? She said, well, if everybody could get the hour with you. Drama. So you see the problem there with these boisterous guys, right? Right. Jumping over that with these doors. Now I want to get to the crowd. One of the challenge of trying to connect is there's too much people all over. In 3 important cases that we'll close on, each time there was a matter of the crowd, the crowd, the crowd. In the case with the woman with the issue of blood, where she needed being connection, there was a crowd. In the case of blind Bartimaeus, there was a crowd. And in the case of Zacchaeus, there was a crowd. So that's a big task we have to work through. So then, 112 or 12. Here are 3 capacities in the light of that we need to work through. And I close with this. I feel you. Somebody say that. Come say it again. If you have a significant other around you, turn and tell them that. Look them straight in their eyes. Hold their hand if you can. And I will do something. I feel you. Ay, ay, ay. You know that's very uncomfortable for some people? I feel you. I went to do a marriage workshop in a church some years ago. And things kind of icy in the church, boy. I said, oh boy. And I'm praying. I say, oh God, I hope the pastor don't do what I think he's going to do. You know, he do the same thing. He called all the couples forward. Hold hands. Look at one another in the eye. Them nothing, them not do. Them don't do that. I see man look up in the sky. Who look on the ground. It's difficult to get the social connection level of I feel you. The second phrase, I hear you. Let's say it. And the third one, I see you. I see you. So in doing deep social connection, learn these and develop these capacities to say, I feel you. I hear you. So, I feel you. Here it is, a woman in a crowd. And she reached out and she touched the hem of Jesus. And Jesus says, who touched me? And the disciple says, Master, there's a crowd here. What kind of question that? He says, I felt virtue left me. That's the deepest level of social connection. Now, we do it in different forms, But when you get in tune spiritually and otherwise, you could actually feel somebody drawing from you. Anybody know what I'm talking about? It's a level that is deep. When Gehazi, Elijah's servant, went after Naaman the Syrian, Elijah says, where did you go? He says, your servant went nowhere. He said, but I felt like something leave me. This is the depth that husband and wife could feel when there's infidelity. He touched me and just, she touched me and it's different. I don't. So, anything going on? No, nothing going on. You sure? But it doesn't feel the same. I feel you. She touched the fringe. Power is leaving me. Amid a aggressive mob, she's pushing towards Jesus. And Jesus is drawing attention to her. He says, woman, you are healed because I feel you. So you feel people into existence. What means when I connect with what you are feeling, I bring you out of the crowd. I bring you out. She's hiding. No, I'm not talking about all these spooky things that I'm feeling somebody here. No. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about social connection. When somebody connects with you and they says, I feel what you're going through. That's deep. That's validating. As over against, me know what you're going through now. Me know what you're feeling so far. What you feeling so far? That little thing bothering you? Oh gosh, you're always feeling something, eh? We went too emotional. And we shut people down. But we want to be socially connected. Jesus is touched with the very feelings of our infirmity. I hear you. Now, I want you to look at this. A whole crowd of people. And Bartimaeus, Jesus! You know what I've discovered? Where are the mothers in the house? Come on, mothers, put your hand up. Your child could be in a crowd. But when that child cries, mommy, what happens? I hear you. My child bawling. Because there's a deep connection there. Daddies, your child could be in a crowd. Oh, no, these people have to laugh. I don't, what are you laughing at? Daddy, who is that? Because we have been cultivated as men not to touch that deep part of ourselves to connect. I hear you. So blind Bartimaeus sitting. When he heard the crowd, Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped, ordered the man to be brought to him because why? I hear him. So I have to develop the social skill to hear people in the crowd. You want to really connect? In the crowd, I have to be tuning in. I like this quote by Buchanan. When we listen, we hear someone into existence. When we listen, in other words, I feel invalidated, disconnected. Nobody cares. And when I stop and listen, I'm actually bringing you out of the woodworks. And you're feeling, oh. We'll jump over some of these things there. Particular research. I want to wrap up. I see you.